Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find the podcast on Twitter at FF After Dark, and my co-host Dale over at Dynasty_Dale. And you can see here, it is going to be a solo podcast here tonight. Dale is actually on vacation, so hopefully he's having a good time. I'm on vacation too, but I'm on child duty for the week because our daycare is closed. So that's always a good time. Just get to chill with the little munchkins for the entire week. It's a little exhausting, but still gotta get it done. So we're gonna have a good time here this week, and I'm gonna be putting out a couple of videos for you guys. And I was actually working on a training camp, kind of preseason week one recap, kind of some of the big storylines that are going on right now. If you're not involved in Twitter all the time, which I highly recommend because it's not a healthy place for your mind, to be honest with you. But if you're, if you're one of those people that is able to kind of tune it out, good for you, first off. But second off, I wanted to recap all of the stories for you guys that are going on right now in preseason week one and training camp and all that stuff. But we had a couple of breaking news signings back to back. It was about like an hour apart, maybe even less. I don't really know. But Ezekiel, Elliot, and Dalvin Cook both signed contracts today for decent money, not major money for either one of these guys. But Ezekiel Elliott actually signs with the New England Patriots, as you can see from the thumbnail. Big shout out to my wife too, by the way, for that thumbnail. I like it quite a bit. I thought it was a pretty cool little thumbnail. So if you like it, please leave a comment down below and let her know some of your love there. But Dalvin Cook also signs with the New York Jets. Now, this one's been kind of flirted around for a while now. And, it's will they, won't they? Are they ever going to actually get it done and get this contract signed? But a lot of people were down on the idea of Dalvin Cook signing with the Jets because of Breece Hall. And I understand the love of Breece Hall, but again, this is kind of one of my big issues with the Dynasty community. I like young running backs just as much as the next guy, but we seem to crown people way too quickly in Dynasty. And, people were still making Breece Hall a top 5 Dynasty running back despite his ACL. And it's like we don't learn from guys like Rhamondre, we're going to talk about Rhamondre here in just a minute, but Javonte Williams. We don't learn from J.K. Dobbins. A lot of these guys who are top 5, Dynasty running backs, they go out, they tear their ACL, and they just never, their value doesn't ever get back to where it was. It's not because it's necessarily a talent aspect, right? I think that J.K. Dobbins has the opportunity this upcoming season to shock the world and just go out there and absolutely dominate for fantasy football. It's more that, they failed to take into account the repercussions of those injuries and the mindset that people are going to have holding a guy for a year and a half or so and what that's going to do to their value. And that's more why they never recover. And, you look at guys like Breece Hall, as of right now, pulling up his dynasty rankings, and I'm curious to see where he is in the dynasty ranking. So he's currently number 5 overall. You got Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, which is crazy. Like, come on, guys, what are we doing? Like Bijan, I can kind of understand. Jahmyr Gibbs, all right. Christian McCaffrey is number 3, Jonathan Taylor number 4, and then Breece Hall at number 5. So, we're just going to dive right into the Dalvin Cook piece of this, and I guess I can just give my thoughts on the New York side first. And so Breece Hall tears his ACL, and we saw it with guys like Javonte and J.K. Dobbins. They take a hit because they lose that year, and Javonte does it mid-season last year. He's on track. A lot of people thought he was going to be one of those rare exceptions, that he was going to be back really quickly from the ACL tear and be ready for week 1. Well, clearly the Dalvin Cook signing says otherwise. And, if Breece Hall is not going to be playing a major role this year, which I believe the Dalvin Cook signing says he's not going to be able to do. One, Breece Hall has no synergy with Aaron Rodgers yet this entire offseason. They bring in a new coach, a new offensive scheme, all of it, and Breece Hall has not been able to really get involved with that on the field. That's going to be a little bit of a problem, and that's not saying that Breece Hall is not a good player. I think he's a very good player, but there is going to be some ramp-up time for someone like a Breece Hall. He needs some of those valuable reps. It's like Jameson Williams, the same reason why I thought the argument was stupid last year. Oh, he's not really playing. He was a first-round pick. Yeah, but he missed all of training camp. He missed the first, 12 weeks of the season. And you need some of that time to get the synergy, especially for fantasy football, where we want Breece to be the pass-catching guy. I just have a little bit of hesitation there with Breece Hall. So let's say that in 2023, he comes out and he can work up to a 40-50% snap share in this offense, which would be pretty good because they do have a very deep lineup of running backs. And that's not a slight on Breece Hall. It's just, I don't think the team is going to want to rush him out there to risk injury or re-injury or anything like that. They believe in this guy for the long term. Well, all of a sudden, Breece Hall doesn't really do much this upcoming season. For a fact, all these people are going to be out there on Twitter and all these supposed analysts who can't really rub two brain cells together some of the times. And, there's a lot of smart people out here. I don't want to crap on people too much, but it does seem that there's a lot of overreaction in the Dynasty community. And for people that are supposedly very high on analytics, it does seem a little bit of a wishy-washy type of situation out there. And that's a little annoying for someone like me. So, I am going to rail on it every time I get a chance, right? But if Breece Hall goes out there and doesn't do a lot this upcoming season, for a fact he's going to fall to maybe top 10. And that's just going to be because of a pure talent standpoint. If they keep Dalvin Cook next year, which is entirely possible, he's 28 years old. And if Dalvin Cook can show that he still has a little bit left in the tank, which I do believe he does, that's going to continue to push Breece Hall down to like a J.K. Dobbins situation or a Javonte Williams situation where, due to no fault of their own, they just were not able to get back and show what they were special at. They're going to depress in value. So Breece Hall is going to see a drop from this. Now, if you're going to buy Breece Hall, do not do it right now. Do not do it. The people that have Breece Hall, they believe. They definitely believe. You got to give this some time to kind of soak in. You need this season to kind of, this Breece Hall is a trade that right before playoffs, or the trade deadline for your league, you go and you make an offer for that guy. If they're close to playoffs or they're close to contention and they need a good piece, that's when you go and grab a Breece Hall. You don't do it right now because his value is at a peak right now. It has not started the slide down that is going to happen with a natural regression in anticipation and, kind of fatigue with holding Breece Hall and not being able to kind of throw him out there. So wait on Breece Hall. But on the flip side, Dalvin Cook is someone that I'm actually pretty interested in. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's the Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel. Come and subscribe to us. It means a lot to us out here if you're, joining the channel. We've grown quite a bit this offseason, and it's due to a lot of guys out there that are talking us up and YouTube promoting us and all that stuff. And we only can do that when you guys subscribe to the channel, you comment, you like, all that stuff. It just helps us out there, and we do really appreciate it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I do have a little bit of a graphic pulled up here on Dalvin Cook's dynasty value. And it's the entire year of 2023. You can see back in January, he was kind of at a peak. And ever since then, he's just continued to drop and drop and drop and drop. Right now, it's saying that he's valued at roughly the 203 to 204 in 2023 draft picks. Most people out there have had their rookie drafts at this point in time. So, you might not have that. If you can get him for a second next year, I would 100% be doing that if you are a contending team or just a playoff team. Go and get Dalvin Cook because I believe that they're going to use him as a pass-catching weapon with Aaron Rodgers. You saw what we've seen for years, what Aaron Jones has been able to do with Aaron Rodgers, and I believe that Aaron Rodgers wants Dalvin Cook to fill that role for this team. I'm a big Michael Carter fan. I loved him coming out from college and everything like that, but there's a big size gap between someone like Dalvin Cook and someone like a Michael Carter, for example. So that said, you go over to the sleeper page here, and I've got Dalvin Cook pulled up, and you look at last year, and this is why I think that he's such an amazing value. Last year, 264 rushing attempts for 1,173 yards, averaging still, he was 27 last year, still averaging 4.4 a carry. I think this Jets offensive line is still very good, and if they're going to slow roll Breece Hall, like I kind of expect them to do, I still think that Dalvin Cook is going to be getting, 60 to 65% of the snaps in this offense, which I think is more than enough for him to be fantasy viable. Now, I don't think he's going to finish as the RB number 11 in PPR. But on the flip side, I could see him getting a lot more than 56 targets this upcoming season. I could see that being around, Aaron Jones, which if you pull up Aaron Jones last year, for example, he had 72 targets. So I think that's kind of in the ceiling for Dalvin Cook. And that would kind of really elevate him for a PPR league specifically. But I do see his carries probably coming down a little bit, especially after Breece does get back, if at all, this upcoming season. Now, you look at last year, and he did have, 77, 60s right here, but then 80s and 90% snap shares. And I think that that's going to take a little bit of a hit as well. So maybe he can be more efficient with a little bit less usage, but I do think that Dalvin Cook is going to finish probably in the 12 to 16 range this upcoming season. And if you can get him for a future second, I think that is just amazing value to go and invest in a player. So I like Dalvin Cook a lot, especially, again, if you're on a contending team, but there's a little bit of risk there as well, and there's going to be that fear that when Breece Hall comes back, he's going to take over everything. But we do need to remember that not every running back is, Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles, these kind of guys, even Javonte Williams, who, ironically, of the two running backs, Breece Hall was supposed to be the slow returner, or the quick returner. He was supposed to get back a lot faster because he had just a clean ACL tear, where Javonte was supposed to be more like J.K. Dobbins. At this point in time, it's kind of reverse, where Javonte is back really, really quickly, much faster than people anticipated, and Breece is taking a little bit longer. So it's just kind of crazy, and to keep that in mind, but not every running back can get back to full health that quickly from an ACL tear. It takes them a little bit of time to ramp up. So even if Breece Hall is out there in, like, say, week 4 or 5 of this upcoming year, I still think that Dalvin Cook is going to have a monstrous share of this backfield touches and targets, and I think that he's still good enough at this point in his career to really make use of that and be a valuable asset for fantasy football. So I am investing in Dalvin Cook right now for a early second. Some of the players, if I can pull that back up here, some of the players that he's worth, I don't think this is going to be a good trade, but like Rashad Bateman, if you can trade Rashad Bateman on a contending team, now there's a little bit of risk there if Bateman is the guy, but if you need a running back badly, I do not think that Dalvin Cook is a bad 1 year, maybe 2 year investment for your team going on there. All right, now that is my thoughts on the New York Jets. Like I said, I don't dislike Breece Hall. I just think that people need to be a little bit more realistic. If you have Breece Hall and you can sell him for RB5 or top 4 value still right now today, I would consider it, and it's purely from a value standpoint. And, we don't know when he's going to get back. Again, if he gets back in week 4, week 5, and he's perfectly fine for fantasy football, okay, then I'm going to look like an idiot with egg on my face. But again, I just think that we need to remember that it takes these guys a little bit of extra time. They have a good player in Dalvin Cook. They've got Michael Carter. They've got Israel Abanikanda that they drafted in the 4th, I think, this year, or the 5th round. And I think that they have a very good stable of guys. So from a pure value standpoint, if you can get out on Breece Hall, and if I pull up the Dynasty rankings one more time, you go to the running back page here, and if you can go from Breece Hall to like even a Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Javonte, Najee Harris. Najee Harris would be the best target, in my opinion. If you can go from Breece to Najee and get a big plus on top of that, I think that's entirely worth it. But I could look like an idiot here in just a couple months. But from a pure value standpoint, I don't think that Breece is ever going to get to top 5 again at this point in his career. We will see here in just a couple of weeks. Now let's jump over to the New England Patriots and what they did, which was sign Ezekiel Elliott. And Zeke was actually the first one to be signed for these two guys. And Zeke is very interesting because, he's someone that is getting a little bit older and is not nearly as good as he once was. But you look at what he was able to do last year for the Dallas Cowboys. He still had 231 attempts. Now, obviously, Dalvin Cook was much better with about the same number of carries last year. He only had 23 targets through the air last year, which was a big decrease in what he's been able to do over his career. You look back at 2018, 95, 71, 71, 65, and then 23. I think that was such a wild change in usage, and I know Tony Pollard has really stepped up for the Dallas Cowboys in that role, so maybe that was it completely, but Ezekiel Elliott is a very good pass blocker still at this point in his career. He's the same age as Dalvin Cook, but he has a ton more usage than Dalvin does at this point. And, Zeke also had a massive workload at Ohio State, and, he's got a lot of tread on the tire. So I do think that he's lost a little bit of a step, and I think the NFL kind of agrees with that as well. But, a $6 million contract to come into this team and compete with Rhamondre Stevenson. You look at the other guys on this backfield. You've got Pierre Strong. You've got Kevin Harris. I don't think it's an amazing group of running backs, to be honest with you. I like Pierre Strong a lot, and I think that he's probably next in line. This is just what Belichick does. He drafts these guys, and then he, lets them be good for a couple years, and then he lets them walk, right? We saw this with Damian Harris. We saw this with Sony Michel. We saw this with a lot of guys. And I think after this year, Rhamondre is probably going to be on the downswing. If you look at Rhamondre, this is year 3, so he has one more year left, and then I think he'll be out, right? And I think that they're just trying to get some valuable competition there while they try to nurture Pierre Strong into a little bit more of a good role. Now, Pierre Strong is someone that I like a lot, like I mentioned. He had that game last year that absolutely wrecked me. He had the touchdown, 17 fantasy points. This week 14 game against Arizona, I was actually trying to lose a matchup and trying to tank it out. And I did not have, because of injuries, I did not have enough bad players to put out there. So I had to throw Pierre Strong, hoping that I would be able to score less than points than my opponent that week. And Pierre Strong just absolutely destroyed me. Five carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. It was just, it was a real kick in the nuts there. But, I do think that he's got a little bit more maturing and development that needs to take place for him specifically, especially in pass protection, where he's going to be more utilized than Rhamondre. Rhamondre is not really a pass blocking type of guy. Rhamondre also has a little bit of bad hands. You go back to last year with Rhamondre, and people don't like to talk about it, but he did have 4 fumbles last year. Now, he only lost 1 of them, but 4 fumbles with Bill Belichick is not a good combination. He will not stand for that. You cannot fumble in a Bill Belichick system and hope to keep your job. So I do think that it was inevitable that they brought in another guy. I think that a lot of people are kind of pegging Ezekiel Elliott only on the carry roles and the carry side of things. But here's the thing with Rhamondre, and I put this out on Twitter earlier. I've talked about this all off season. If you've watched any of our other videos this last year, I made Rhamondre a not my guy for this upcoming season because he's being overvalued, and it's purely based on the passing usage. 210 rushing attempts. He was very efficient with that last year, which is great. You love to see that. 88 targets is never going to happen this upcoming year. So people are kind of writing him into 88 targets again, and I just do not see that as a realistic possibility for this player this upcoming year. You've got Bill O'Brien, who doesn't like to target these guys. He doesn't like to dump it off to the running backs in the short. He likes to utilize the tight ends, and he likes to utilize the receivers down the field. And that's why I think that Rhamondre is going to have a massive decrease in target volume. And I do think that Ezekiel Elliott, people are saying, oh, he's only going to come in and take the 146 that were left behind by Damian Harris. he hasn't had less than 200 carries his entire NFL career, and I don't think it's going to happen this year. He's going to have over 200 carries. He's going to eat into Rhamondre. They're going to utilize Rhamondre more as a honestly, I would not be shocked if they utilize Rhamondre as more of a gadget player and Zeke as more of the third down back, because he can pass protect so much better than Rhamondre, which means that Zeke will probably just naturally have a little bit more of an increase in targets this upcoming year. And, Rhamondre is going to have a little bit more of a decrease, but they're going to try and scheme Rhamondre open a little bit more uniquely, right? But I do think he's going to see a massive decrease in opportunities. Whereas Zeke, I think he's going to be more of the third down guy. He's also going to be a little bit more of a, relief player or an early downs kind of guy. And I think that Ezekiel Elliott is going to, last year he finishes is the running back number 22. You would think that he didn't even finish as a top 50 running back by the way that people talk about him. But, you go over to Ezekiel Elliott and what he's able to do here. Windows, right? He's being valued currently at a third-round pick, mid-third. And I do, again, just like Dalvin Cook, I think that Zeke is going to have some good games for you this upcoming year. You look at his actual game log from last year, and he didn't absolutely kill you, especially in the second half. He kind of murdered you early in the year, but week 3, 14 points, 10 points, and then after that, he didn't have a game under 13 points except for the last couple weeks there at the end of the year. So, from week 6 until the week 16, so, he missed a couple games of injury and a bye, but in that 8-game stretch or 7-game stretch, he did not have less than 13 points. So he was perfectly fine and very consistent, and I think that we're going to be able to see that again. Again, if you need a running back for your team, for a contending team, Ezekiel Elliott is someone that I'm really looking forward to trying to go and get, because for the 304 or 305, I think that that's massive. You look at the other players in this range, Josh Downs or Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, unless you're rebuilding, give me Zeke. Chase Claypool, give me Zeke. Trey McBride, I mean, if it's tight end premium, okay, I can kind of see that. But like even Jerome Ford, what are we doing here? Jerome Ford or Ezekiel Elliott? Is this really a debate? Damian Harris or Ezekiel Elliott? I would 100% take Zeke. Now, you can argue that this is current value when he doesn't have a team, and we're going to see him kind of spike up here in the next couple of days. But at this point in time, I think that he's still kind of poorly valued. I think that people are going to give a lot of the usage over to Rhamondre still, and I don't think that's going to be the case. So I would buy Ezekiel Elliott if you need a running back badly for one of your teams, because he's very cheap and he's going to be fairly consistent. He's not going to be the best player. He's not going to finish as, old school Zeke where, he a top 10 guy, top 5 guy. But I think that top 24 is definitely doable, and he's being valued as the running back 53 right now. So massive gap, and he's only 28 years old. I get it. He's lost a step, but Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott are two guys that I think are massive buys, and I could see Dalvin again 12 to 16 this upcoming year, depending on Breece. If Breece can come back and really show his talent and and take back that opportunity, then maybe that's going to hurt Dalvin pretty badly. But I think that top 16 is pretty safe at this point in time. And then Ezekiel Elliott, 53. Come on, guys. I think that he's going to finish as a RB2, top 24, and he's going to have a lot of value there. So that's my thoughts. You can let me know your take on my take here in the comments down below. Again, you can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can tweet out at the podcast on Twitter at DFF After Dark Twitter channel, or X channel, whatever. I don't know. I did this whole X Twitter debate. I don't even know how to kind of process it. Yeah, we'll see how the consensus kind of falls on it. But for now, you can X me or post me or whatever over on Twitter at those two places. And yeah, I appreciate you guys checking this video out. Let us know your thoughts down below. And until next time, thank you and good night.